And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Happy Friday, welcome back to the Zip Protections video. My name is TJ Ferralis, and let's get into it. Today's video is going to be a little bit different because we're starting off with the brand new changes I mentioned in the last video. If you have not seen that video yet, you can watch it right over here. That's right, you saw the title. It's story time. Today we're talking about my first college experience, and my first college experience is probably a lot different than yours was. Reason for that being, I probably missed about 80% of all the classes I ever took, and I went to this college for 2.5 years. So if you do the math, I probably should have been kicked out the moment I set foot on campus. It sounds terrible because it was, and the reason for that was that I was basically ruining my life every single day for 2 years. And before I get into the details of that, I gotta go buy some stuff. So I actually need to buy almond milk, and I need to buy a Dr. Grip pen. Yes, specifically a Dr. Grip pen. I only use Dr. Grip pens. I'm pretty picky when it comes to pens. I carry a pen around, and I want it to be that pen. So, yeah. Out of high school, I didn't really have an idea what I wanted to do. I just knew, I gotta go to college and get a degree and then start a life, right? I go to an orientation for college, right? How I ended up going to the orientation is pretty funny because I didn't choose that school. I explained to my parents I didn't want to go somewhere far away, so they just said, okay, well, here are your options. I didn't research anything. Just one day they said, hey, orientation for this school is this day, you're going. And I ended up going to that school because I didn't have any sort of plan. I didn't have a life plan. I didn't know what it was to plan a life. I was just going with the flow. My parents were doing everything for me. It was so bad. This school was about 45 minutes away. I was 17, I wasn't really used to driving long distances. I thought it was so far. So the school was huge. I was just overwhelmed with the amount of information that was out there that I did not have. My first quarter, I did pretty well. I think I got all A's. The next quarter, things got really bad. So this CVS did not have the pen I was looking for, nor did it have the milk I was looking for. Just go to Walmart. So the subsequent quarters were the ones that really messed me up. I was so stupid and so terrible about registering for classes. I never planned or reminded myself of the registration dates. So for me, I think it was Biology 102 or something, and I also had to take English. These classes, they're really important because you can't progress your degree unless you take these classes, and I don't get these classes because I get put on waitlist number 98 or something, so I just took some rando classes. These classes were random, but they counted towards my degree because they were required electives that I had to take, but I was already resorting to that. That's something that you have the luxury of doing later on. I was already doing that because I had to. This is when things started to slip up because there was an underlying problem that I had. And I had a laptop. So when was this? 17, so that was 7 years ago. So that was 2009. At that time, I was still playing World of Warcraft, I believe. But a little game came out during my first year of college. It was called Minecraft. That year was when I first heard about it, and back then, I became sort of obsessed with this game. When I say sort of obsessed, I mean there are many days where I just decided to miss class, stay in the library, and just play the whole day. Right around 8 a.m., maybe I'd go to my morning class, I'd eat, go to the library because I had a gap in my schedule, and then I would just play Minecraft. And if it wasn't Minecraft, it was some other game. It was an MMO, it was my DS, it was Phoenix Wright, it was all these games. I thought, you know what, it'll be okay. I'll just, do what I did in high school. I'll just BS my way through it. I got my ass handed to me. I ended up going to attend only the classes right before the midterm, right before the final, take the final and midterm, and just fail really hard. And I didn't learn my lesson either because I repeated that same thing the third quarter. To me, it wasn't alarming. I was still stuck in this mentality, I could just make it up. I can make it up next time. Next time never came. During that same year, I decided that I wanted some money, so I got a job, and it was the job with a knife company. Again, if you haven't seen that video, you could watch it right over here. I have a job, BSing my way through school, and I'm just thinking to myself, it'll all be okay, I'll figure it out. I always do, I always figure it out. A huge problem with this whole thing was that I didn't have anyone who was holding me accountable. I didn't have any friends. It was hard. I just wanted to go home. It was a long commute. I was exhausted playing all the video games. In college, it felt like everyone had their own clique. Everybody had some place to go. Everyone had classes to be at. Everybody was meeting up with a friend. If people weren't going to classes, they either had something really important to, like go to the library and meet their study group, or they were going to a club, not like, woo, club, but no, you know what I mean. School, college activities, they all had that sort of community there. I was just a guy who would show up, and then when his classes were done, I would go home. And what made things worse was that when I was working, I had friends at that office. This college thing is miserable. I feel miserable here, which was a really immature thing if you think about it, because I didn't really give college a chance. So they had the milk, but they didn't have the pen. Change of plans. I'm gonna get food. So I'm a school loner, college, library, video game loner, okay? That's what I'll call it. It's ridiculous because there are people who, in between classes, they'll go to the library. I'm sure some of them saw me when I was there in the morning. They went to their morning class. I was still there. They came back and I'm still in the same spot. Probably the first time they didn't think anything of it. And the second time they go to their evening class or their afternoon class, they come back and I'm still there in the same spot. They're thinking, this guy has not moved since the morning. Does this guy even go here? What is this guy's deal? Things got worse because I knew I was behind. I didn't belong there. I wasn't taking any classes. Instead, I'm playing video games. And the reason why I'm playing video games is to distract myself from being fearful of the future because I didn't plan my life. And the reason why I didn't plan my life was because I was playing video games. And then the reason I was playing video games was because I was distracting myself from the life I didn't like. And if I wasn't doing that, I was working. All this, and I was pretending to be going to classes, taking my parents' money. I wasn't doing anything with the money they were giving me with education. I was just using it for internet. It was the most expensive internet bill my parents have ever paid. 2 years later, I've at least been trained on what it took to open an office, kinda. By then, I had been an assistant manager for a while, and I thought, that wouldn't be too bad. I wouldn't mind that. So I told my parents that I was gonna take a break from school. I was going to pursue this job, and they got so mad. I convinced my parents that it was just until I could find a way to pay for school myself. And that never happened. That kind of connects the whole knife story together. Reflecting back, I think what was going on was that I had an identity crisis. I didn't know what I was doing with my life, what I wanted to do with my life. And video games for me at the time, I didn't realize it, but it was sort of an escape. I didn't really come to terms with that. A couple of years ago, I used to think, that's so pathetic. People saying video games is their escape, they just can't deal with life. But I was in that spot too, and I know what that's like. You're just immature, you didn't plan out your life, you have all these opportunities, but you haven't been spending enough time figuring out who you are, and you have this identity crisis where you only know what you want right now. You don't know what you want 5 years from now. As a kid, you want to think that you have all these opportunities, but you have to lock things down. You have to take the steps to get there, and that starts with committing to an idea. A few years later, I decided to go back to school and then kind of figured things out later on. But looking back, video games was an escape, and that was a pretty terrifying time. Anytime you're using video games as an escape, that's when you gotta check yourself. That's the immediate indication where, okay, video games is my escape. What is the stressors in my life? How do I deal with it? Those things are gonna compound. Stress, interest, right? They accrue and they only get worse the more and more you don't deal with it. And before I go, check this out. Look how poorly this bench is designed. Look at the space between the table and the bench. I am literally on the edge of my seat, and the food had to be right here at the edge of the table. I had to eat like this. It's very poorly designed. I guess that's the reason why no one uses it. You have to be like a basketball player who's like 6 foot to be able to use the bench to its full potential, I suppose. All right, let's go home. So if I went back and actually took school seriously, what do I think would have happened? I would like to say that I really like the way I've come along. It's just I've kind of revolutionized my ideology of life. And it sounds really pretentious, but the gist of it is I went from this 17-year-old kid who is so privileged and took everything for granted, didn't use my time or resources on anything productive, to being someone who strives on productivity, someone who thrives in this busy environment where I feel like I'm getting stuff done, where I feel like I know where my passions lie and what steps I have to take to get to where I want to be. If I were to go back and have that sort of mantra, I would have been pretty established financially at a young age if I was successful. But I wanted to stay in school for as few years as possible so I could just have free time to do whatever I thought was interesting at the time, which was probably playing video games. Now I really know where my passions lie. Now I really know what I want to do, what my life goals in the next 5 years are. That's an interesting place to be in because I know what steps I have to take. So today is today? Come on, man. Gotta know the date. So today is June 3rd. You'll see me again June 10th with another video out. And if you'd like to help me reach that 100 subscriber goal, then you can subscribe up here. And before I go, if you have not yet seen the announcement video I made, you can watch it right over here. There's some pretty interesting announcements and changes that I'm making to this channel, so I'll probably be making an update later in the future, kind of panning things out. That's it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I've had my contacts on for like 48 hours now. Okay, so I'm wearing my sister's glasses right now because I bought the wrong product and I just destroyed my contact lenses and I didn't bring any backups.